welcome to another episode of The Sauce. The Sauce is a special episode sponsored by Sauce Digital. In this episode, I will be discussing the impact of English on business with a fellow Caribbean entrepreneur, Laurina, founder of Caribbean Hustlers. Hi, Laurina, and welcome. Thank you so much for coming to The Sauce. How are you today?
I'm okay, and you? Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm good. I'm a bit hungry, to be honest, because it's the middle of the afternoon. It's a Friday.
Oh, yeah, it's a Friday.
I could have something to eat. Some of us are already eating.
Yeah, something sweet, you know?
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same person.
Yeah.
Anyway, could you tell me more about you and Caribbean Hustlers?
So, I'm Laurina. I'm 27. I'm from the island of St. Martin, but what we call a little entrepreneur nomad. So I've lived in St. Martin, I've lived in Martinique, I've lived in Guadeloupe, in France. I love to travel. In the Caribbean, I've visited
What's your favorite island?
Jamaica. Oh my God, Jamaica. I love Jamaica.
What is it about Jamaica?
Oh my God, the food, the people, the nature.
In that order?
The vibe, yes. I love Jamaica. If you have any Jamaican fans, one love, give thanks,
I love this. Shout out to the Jamaicans listening to us.
Yes, shout out to you.
Probably.
Jamaica is my favorite island.
All right. So what about Caribbean Hustlers?
So Caribbean Hustlers is a professional network that I founded in 2021. So basically, we were a digital agency, but I wanted to expand my professional network in the English-speaking Caribbean, and I was based in Guadeloupe. So I got really frustrated because I really wanted to attend networking events with islanders from neighboring islands. And this is where Caribbean Hustlers, this is when Caribbean Hustlers started. I started to do networking events because I really wanted to meet entrepreneurs from Guadeloupe, but also from St. Lucia, from Dominica, based in Guadeloupe. So our main objective is really to connect entrepreneurs from the French, Creole, English Caribbean, and make sure that we build a community of entrepreneurs that help out each other. And today I'm very happy to say that we've done networking events physically and virtually in Guadeloupe and Martinique and also in St. Martin. So yeah,
Congrats.
Caribbean Hustlers is really for anyone that is looking to expand their professional networks beyond their own borders.
Okay. What is it with you and networking?
So networking is something that I started when I was in my master's. Well, I was in my last year in communication. Well, I was doing a master's in communication in France, in Bordeaux. And I was looking for what we call an alternance. And I joined BNE, Business Network International.
Oh, you did?
Yes, in Bordeaux, Dordogne. And I loved it. I was an assistant, and I was creating networking events for entrepreneurs in Bordeaux, for entrepreneurs in Gironde, for entrepreneurs in Dordogne, and Saint-Emilion also. And this is where my passion for networking began.
Okay.
And ever since, I always had this idea that I wanted to do this little BNE in Martinique and St. Martin and Guadeloupe. But that was in 2020. That was in 2016. And, time flew by and I had other experiences.
Yeah.
But in the back of my head, I was like, listen, I really want to create a community of entrepreneurs, of hustlers, of Caribbean hustlers that can actually connect and help each other out, because I noticed that in the Caribbean islands, a lot of entrepreneurs do not necessarily connect with each other. Everyone is doing their own thing in their own corner, and I didn't really that's not really productive for me. Because
For anyone, I think.
Thank you. For me, an entrepreneur should be able to ask for help, but also be able to meet others, to, come out your comfort zone. So yeah, networking was the thing that I really liked because
It was
I loved
lacking.
it. Yes, it was.
It was
really
an
lacking.
opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah, cool. I just want to mention for those of you who don't speak French, an alternance is sort of a part-time internship.
Yes.
Where you spend some time within the company and the rest of the time in school. And it's really hard to find because this company's got to pay for the school.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I had a rhythm 1 week in school.
Yeah.
And 1 week in the company. And that was the first year. And the second year was in my master's was 3 days in school, 2 days in the company. And then in the following week, 2 days in school, three. It was a mess.
That sounds
It
like
was
a nightmare.
A mess.
Yeah. So that might seem a bit obvious, but why is English so important to you?
So let's talk about it seriously. On a business aspect,
Yeah.
it's very important to speak English because whether you are doing business in the Caribbean or business in Asia or business also in Africa, English is the language you have to use when you want to communicate.
French will take you nowhere.
Well, French can
in
take
a few
you
places,
somewhere,
but not everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like English is more. It's more attached to stereotypes as well. Like it's kind of a global language.
Yes.
So there's nothing expected. It's not the same with French
No,
or
it's not
any
the
other
same.
Latin language.
And you have also to keep in mind that we have like a superpower from the United States that have also an influence when it comes to media. So everything that we see basically on Instagram, on TikTok are in English. So English is everywhere. So you have to speak English. It's not in French. I'm sorry. So you have to
Don't
speak
be.
English.
It's too complicated anyway. So what's that story that made you realize English was a must-have in your skill set?
Oh my God. So,
it's about to be just.
So like I said, I'm from Saint Martin. In Saint Martin, we speak French and English.
Yeah, it's a bit less compartmentalized than in Guadeloupe, no?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very well. It's French. Well, one part is French, but we mostly speak English.
Yeah, right.
And I realized that it was an asset when I was an adult and I was looking for a student job.
Yeah.
And also when I was an adult looking just for a job after my diploma, my master's degree.
Yeah.
When I used to say, I'm bilingual, there was like a ding 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 in their eyes, like, oh my God.
For real? We're gonna do so many things together.
I was like, listen, I can speak French, I can speak English. Oh my God, you'll be able to translate. Oh my God, you'll be
been looking for you forever.
Thank you. So
you were hyped.
Yes, I went to this job interview in Bordeaux.
Okay, so it was in continental France. Then.
Yes, in France.
Okay.
I was in France and I was looking for a job. And it was like a translation job or something.
Okay, so it makes sense.
And they were a bit, how to say it? They were a bit deceived because the person that was there before wasn't really, fully bilingual, or they had some kind of difficulties when it comes to translations. And I remember when I was a student in my second year, I used to do a lot of translation because I grew up doing, how you call it? A lot of translation, French and English, when it comes to Saint Martin. So orally translations. So I came in and they had me translate like a bunch of sentences. And every time I was on point. And they're like, oh my God, you're really bilingual. And I was like, yes, English is very important.
Because people used to say that. Like, there was a time where if you could basically say Brian is in the kitchen, it was all right to find a job because it was already like a rare skill.
Yeah.
So people were like, oh, thank God you just don't only speak French, you know?
And honestly, I never...
And I think this
Brian
standard's
thing,
kind of risen.
I never... Like, the first time I heard about this Brian is in a kitchen thing was when I left Guadeloupe because...
Yeah, it's a comedy thing.
Yes, I do not know. Well, I grew up in a place where we used to speak English.
Yeah.
I
so
was in French school and we did not do Brian is in the kitchen. Like for real, like in middle school we used to go school and go straight to it. Like, let's talk about Christmas. Okay, Christmas is this.
I think it's a Saint Martin thing.
Yeah,
because it wasn't Brian, but I can tell you that Jenny was definitely in the kitchen. Somebody was in that kitchen.
So, yeah.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that story. Do you think that, I think you already answered, but asking anyway, do you think that speaking English is mandatory to succeed in the Caribbean or in networking? If you prefer.
I'll be very blunt. Yes. Because let's say 90% of the Caribbean is basically English-speaking islands. Of course, we have the Republic Dominican and we have Haiti.
Yeah. That's like 4 islands. Well, 3. Because they're on the same one.
We have Guadeloupe, we have Martinique. But if you really want to do business, if you really want to do...
Counting with my fingers.
If you really want to do business, if you really want to network, do it in English.
Yeah.
Do it in English.
Agreed. Moving on to your relationship with English, what's the best thing?
The best thing is to communicate with everyone and anyone. That's the best. I can get up, go to Dominica, speak English.
Can go anywhere.
Get up, go St. Lucia, speak English. You know, you don't have that burden of, oh my God, I won't be able to speak that language over there. No.
Which is actually true in French. Because, like, you would be thinking, like, yeah, I'm going to go to Quebec and everything's going to be all right. And then you go there and you understand nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel that with English, it's a bit different. Because, like, obviously the accents and the slurs and the slang is, like, different from one island to another, one country to another. But there is a common ground. Like...
Let's say you have a certain, when you know you can speak English, you have that freedom to go to another place and know that you won't struggle.
Yeah, and it matters. What's the worst thing?
About English?
Yeah.
Speaking English.
Yeah, knowing that you're bilingual, so it's not your only burden to speak.
Well, the worst thing when you're bilingual, first of all, is... you start your sentences in French and you finish them in English.
You do that to me a lot. You're challenging my brain. I like it, but every time I see your message, I'm like, I don't know, because, like, you know, I kind of see them separately. So what language should I choose? I know both are okay, but I think I need to make a decision.
That's a challenge. Yeah. That's a challenge. You know, when you want to express yourself... And, you know, you want to say that word, but you do not know the translation. That's very frustrating.
I feel like bilinguals can only share that feeling with other bilinguals. Yeah. We are doomed. I know that your marketing and communication is in both languages. How do you balance that? Like, how do you choose among English and French? Like, I know that, for example, for that infamous post you did about Rihanna in the Super Bowl, you chose to do it in English. Mm-hmm. Why?
So I really wanted to touch a lot of people when it comes to the Super Bowl. So I was like, let's do it in English. Let's do it in English. We're talking about the Super Bowl. We're talking about Rihanna. We are
talking about the U.S.
We are talking about the U.S. We are talking about the impact she had. And it was very obvious for us that it was supposed to be in English.
Yeah.
And when it comes to French, for instance, when we had the last after work in Guadeloupe, well, we have both in English and French, but the first description will be in French because it was in Guadeloupe, and the second one will be in English for all the hustlers, the English-speaking hustlers that we have in Caribbean Hustlers.
Okay.
So
cool.
We try to balance both.
I think that's a very good idea. You were talking about Jamaica earlier. Do you feel that it's a country, it's a way of speaking English with the patois that impacted the way you do while you were speaking English today?
Well, let's say that, okay, first of all, each island have their own patois. Okay? Jamaica have their own patois. St. Lucia have their own patois, Dominica, etc. And
I thought Dominica had a Creole, because I think a patois is different from a language. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that patois is a way of twisting, a given language and make it yours.
The base of patois is like a Creole, but in English. The basic lexical language is English when it comes to patois.
Yeah.
When it comes to Creole, the base is French.
Okay, so that's the difference.
For instance, let's take Saint Martin. Yeah. The Creole in Saint Martin, let's say the Creole is patois English over there.
Okay.
For instance,
because it's English based.
Exactly.
So there's no such thing, as an English based Creole. Would be patois. Okay.
It's patois. So the influence, for instance, that Jamaica had on the world.
Thanks, Bob.
They speak patois, and they made patois international, and it was the very first time that an island had such impact on the world, a very small island like in the Caribbean like that, because in the media, we used to listen to, standard English. And for instance, when Bob Marley or Sean Paul became mainstream, that's when people started to learn more about patois.
Yeah, and realize that we do not all speak the same way.
Exactly. And patois is also English.
Yeah.
It's also English. We have standard English and we have patois. So
thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. It's so important. So I'm not going to ask you what surprised you the most with your during your first conversation, with a native speaker.
Oh, okay,
Because I feel like you're a native speaker, so it doesn't make sense. But...
Okay, so we just talked about patois.
Yeah.
And we talked about standard English, okay?
Yeah.
So, when I'm talking with someone in the United States, for instance, let's say, a towel.
Yeah.
You know what's a towel, right?
Yeah.
Well, in patois, we say towel.
Yeah.
We do not pronounce it the same thing. Like, here, I'm speaking to you in standard English. But if I speak like a semana, I can speak like that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You see? It's really not the same. So when I speak with a native English speaker from the United States, let's say I arrange my English.
You will flatten your English.
Yes, I'll make sure.
Accent,
exactly.
Nothing.
And when I really speak my
your
English, exactly, my patois, my Saint Martin patois, that's when I'll be like, listen, let me talk like that because nobody gonna understand what I'm gonna say. You know, so it's very different. When I have a certain public, I arrange, have some...
Is that easy to you?
No.
Okay.
Because you have to go back. You'll be like, okay, let's start the basic, going back to school. What did you learn? I am, you are, we are.
Oh, yeah.
But
what a nightmare.
And patois is I am, you is.
Yeah.
It's not I am, you are.
But I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like, especially in the Caribbean, even like French people maybe would even understand you easier if you do speak like that. I don't know if it's because of the impact of Jamaican music, but I wouldn't say that I was more comfortable with the way you were speaking, but in terms of understanding, I didn't quite get the difference. You know what I mean?
It's all about practicing your ear.
Yeah.
When you listen to Jamaican music, I think that the impact that it had, like I said, in music and the mainstream music also, and you listen to it in a radio, you see it on TV, your ear, you start to imitate it. You know, you have the habit of listening to Patois, listening to dancehall music, reggae music, Jamaican music, or even soca music, and you hear how they speak. So for you, it becomes normal. For someone in the United States or maybe the UK, maybe less the UK, because they have
maybe not London, maybe not South London.
No, because the UK, when it comes to Jamaica, you know, they have like a big Jamaican, big Trinidadian community over there.
Yeah.
But if you go in the United States and you start speaking Patois, they will watch you like, okay, you in your Jamaican accent.
Yeah, they would like, because I feel that like Jamaica is that country that would summarize the Caribbean every single time. I remember when I used to study in the UK, someone in my class, I said, yeah, I'm from Guadeloupe. And then it was that random lady and she was like, oh, what part of Jamaica is that? I was like, it's not in Jamaica. It's another island.
That's a
and
whole
she was like,
other debate.
Yeah, but she was basically assuming that the whole Caribbean was Jamaica. And because I was in the US last year and I felt like that it was just about like the immigrants that are around.
Yeah.
Like in Miami, everybody knew about Cuba. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting off topic.
Yeah.
What's your advice for those listening that want to improve their English?
Go to another Caribbean country, please.
Yes. Go there, I would say, by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think everything will be okay. Because, of course, our languages are different, but our way of, like, welcoming one another and having this sense of, like, being a part of something bigger that we're already proud of, we know how to do that. So people will welcome you.
In school, we often motivate students to, you know, go to London, go to Canada, go to the United States. When we have Dominica, St. Lucia, we have...
Even St. Martin, so close.
Listen, you do not even need a visa to go St. Martin.
Yeah, it's much more easier than we actually think it is.
You just have to go.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add, maybe?
So, yeah, please follow Caribbean Hustlers if you want to expand your professional network in the Caribbean.
Thank you so much for coming, Laurina. It was really, really good to have you here. So that's it for today, guys. Laurina, I would like to ask you, who would you want to nominate for our next episode of The Sauce?
I would love to nominate Yannick Jotam, the founder of Officium Conseil, and Caribbean Best Place to Work.
Yeah, I love that. It's not a company name, it's an account name. I love that account. I love that branding. It's so great. Anyway, you that are listening to us right now, if you like it, give it 5 stars or not, however you feel today. Recording this episode was once again very special. And we thank again Laurina for all of her wisdom,
Thank you for having me.
And I don't know, just you're shine, girl. So I just hope everything goes well for you.